because the needle apparently wasn't as clean, or it fell while she was doing it, and she inserted it back into my buttocks. So I was winded up on antibiotics for a good 6 to 7 months. And Dr. Davis actually, I have 3 cysts that he actually has to take out from there.
So you're still paying the price for these procedures. Now see, the reason that we're doing this show, I'm sure that there are many people out there who are qualified and know what they are doing, but in many cases there are those who do not, and that's why we wanted to bring this to your attention. So if you have questions or comments, we're going to give you an opportunity to do that. You can email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. Now, both of these ladies actually saw Dr. Davis back out after these procedures. How often do you see that, where someone comes to you in the aftermath and says, oh my God, I'm worse than I was before?
I know. Being in practice for over 20 years now, I guess I'm starting to see more and more of these patients that maybe went somewhere else, tried something, and then they try to come back and see if there's a way to fix or to alter what may have been done.
And of course, the idea is you want to look as good as you can, but you're trying to do it on a budget. And in the end, would both of you say it would have just been better to spend the money up front with a board-certified doctor?
What's crazy is that you spend all this money on cars and homes and sending your kids to the perfect school, and then your face, that's your whole, that's your whole order, that's your whole show. Everybody sees that first. You work out, you spend all this money in gym, and here I'm going to save a couple $100.
Right.
Never again. Absolutely not. Never again.
On that note, I have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to hear more about their stories, and we're going to tell you what you can do if you are a victim of a botched procedure. And as I promised, later on we're going to give you what exactly to look for if you're considering plastic surgery. Stay with us. Imagine going to have a procedure that you thought would make you feel better about yourself, only to have it botched, and you end up looking and feeling worse than ever. Well, that's what's happened to our guest this hour, and that's why we're providing you with some plastic surgery warnings. Welcome back again, everyone. This is It's Your Call, and I am Lynn Doyle. We're giving you an opportunity now to join in with your questions and comments about plastic surgery. Perhaps you'd like to share your experience as well. Let me ask you this. Would you consider having a procedure? And if so, what kind? What are you interested in? Do you know what you should be looking for in a professional, or are you just going to kind of go with the flow? If some of your friends have used someone, will you just go with that, or will you actually take the time to research it? And if you had a bad experience that you'd like to share with us to help others avoid such a similar fate, we'd like you to email us about that as well. You can email me directly. I'm at lynn@lynndoyle.net. And as always, you can find us on Facebook. We are on Twitter, and you can see these shows on YouTube as well. We're also on demand these days on Xfinity with Comcast. So some of the questions that have come in so far talk about the procedures that have been done, and also about what your legal rights are should something go wrong. Joining us now to tell us about those legal rights if you're a victim of a botched procedure is Sadie Ladove, a malpractice attorney and a partner in the law firm of Dolchin, Slotkin & Todd. Sadie, always great to have you here.
Good to be here, Lynn.
I know you and I are very interested in this subject. But the question is, if someone's made the wrong choice, made the wrong decision, and gone to someone who has botched a procedure, does the consumer really have any rights?
There are very limited rights in these circumstances, because it's not as if you're dealing with a board-certified physician who unfortunately made a mistake or there's a bad result, and it is unfortunate for everyone. So what you're really dealing with is someone who's practicing medicine without a license. So the best thing that you can possibly do is go to your local prosecutor's office or to your state office to shut that person, ultimately shut that person down. If it's a, for example, if it's a Botox party in a home, you may look to see if there's homeowners insurance to cover the loss. But my big thing is, if you're going to have a procedure done, go to a board certified plastic surgeon, cosmetic surgeon to do the procedure, because basically you're insuring yourself against a bad result.
Well, why is it that the government or the health department or whomever would write oversight on this allows this kind of stuff to occur? Like you just said, they're performing medical procedures without a license. That seems kind of transparent, that you shouldn't do that.
Most of the things that you'll hear about, even from these patients, is that a lot of times it's under the guise of being the same products that you're going to be able to get at the doctor's office anyway. And I think that's why it's very important to understand the two major things here is the product an FDA-approved product even to begin with?
That's right.
And who's the person that's actually doing the procedure? So those two things, at least in my practice, I've seen as a huge way of discussing this with the patients, because a lot of times the product is something that I even use, but who was injecting it, who was actually doing it is the issue.
Also, Lynn, the other issue is an individual who has had a bad result may not think to go to the local prosecutor's office or the state attorney general's office and say, hey, look, I made a mistake. I went to someone who was allegedly a practitioner who knew what to do and did not know what to do.
Right.
So awareness needs to be raised that individuals who do have bad results as a result of an unlicensed procedure do have rights. And what you said, Dr. Davis, is absolutely spot on, because you don't know when you go to a basement party if the material that's being injected into you is pure.
That's
Did
true.
either one of you ever think to question the material that was going to be put in your body, or because people you knew had it done and seemed like they were happy with it, was that testimony enough for you?
Well, I mean, you have to understand the girl that did mine, you know, she was a friend of mine. She was a surgical assistant. You know, you go in that basement and there's 4 million scrubs hanging up, and her whole refrigerator is filled with, you know, boxes that actually say Botox or, you know, Juvederm or, you know, whatever the specific brand is that you would see at Dr. Davis's office. And I'm like, okay, you know what you're doing. You know, she does it here, she does it in Florida, she does it in New Jersey, and she has, you know, and she has a book put together with all the pictures of everyone she does.
I'd love to know how she got the substances.
But here's the interesting thing. I think we have two perfect patients to talk about this, because in Dina's case, she really was having something done with legitimate products. It's just that it takes a skilled person to really know the problems associated with using these FDA-approved products. And I just think that a lot of times it's done too cavalierly, where you can get it done at certain spas or certain places, and it is going to be good material. It's just, I think it's kind of incumbent upon the patient to really seek out the proper way of getting it done.
You know, I have to ask the question while we're looking at these pictures. I'm sorry, if we can look at them again, because the thing is now obviously she looks great, but how do you fix that? If someone has gotten too much Botox or has had a bad procedure, how do you go about evaluating it and correcting it?
It's not easy. That's not an easy thing. What we did with Dina's case it really was like tincture of time. We let the Botox wear off of her forehead so that we really could see what was going to happen over the course of some time. From the standpoint of over-injecting a filler material, sometimes you can balance it out on the opposite side of the lip or the opposite side of the face to just create better symmetry. But many times with Botox, you really do just have to let it wear off.
And in a situation like Nicole, I mean, it was painful for her to start with. What happened with that? How were you able to correct that?
Well, when I'm meeting with Nicole now, it's actually been a long process for that area to really heal. And I'm stepping into this area now to really try to correct some of the problems that were associated with how it was administered.
Was her life ever in danger, or are other people's lives in danger when they have these kinds of procedures?
Well, we all know about that story about what happened in the hotel room here by the airport, which unfortunately was probably the exact same type of material that potentially that Nicole had placed in her area.
Because that's not FDA approved,
No,
right? Not in the United States. So a lot of women go like outside the country to get it done, and we don't even hear about their
And God
nightmare
forbid
stories.
your infection would have spread and you wind up with sepsis. I mean, that's you know,
true.
you're one step away from being on IV antibiotic and having a whole world of problems.
But it sounds like she doesn't really have a lot of recourse, because it was a decision that she made knowingly and willingly.
But you know what? I still would say to you, Nicole, I would go to the local prosecutorial authorities that if this person is still around, to shut them down. What I'm really concerned about also in listening to your story, if you came into my office and said, Sadie, what can I do? I'd want to know where she got these substances, because if it did come from a drug company and she's an unlicensed provider, I would go ahead and sue the drug company. It's not, I don't want you to